Yo, 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 what's going on, guys? Jaydaniel here with my co-host Victor Marshall, and this is the Sales at Home podcast. How you doing,
What's up,
Vic?
guys? Good, man. How are you?
I'm good, dude. I just wanted to share this freaking topic we were just going back and forth about, man.
Yeah.
Like, and this may be a little controversial. We may get canceled. It's okay. I think we have like 10 subscribers. But dude, what are your thoughts on like salespeople or people in general, right? Like, what are your thoughts on people being like weak, right? Like just being weak versus having like a mental illness, like, and I guess kind of factoring into weak is like mental instability, like you mentioned, or just I don't know, being unable to handle it, like adversity. Like, what are your thoughts on that contrast?
So I think that a lot of it's easy to hit a hot button topic, like mental illness, and it starts to
Yeah,
catch its flame, and everybody starts to pick it up, and now it's everyone's excuse for X or excuse for Y. I think mental illness is definitely a thing. It's definitely real, and those people who suffer from it, and it's an
mm-hmm.
issue. But I think sometimes mental illness is thrown in as I have a mental illness. This is why so whatever, right? I have mental illness. This is why I XYZ. But
Yep.
in reality, I think that sometimes that mental illness is more mental instability. And what I mean by that is a lot of times it comes back to self-esteem. It'll come back to your view of how others view you. It'll come back to some trauma that you may have had that you're not able to kind of work through. um, and a lot of times that gets thrown into the mental illness category, like a coverall, like a big blanket, right? Mental illness is just a blanket you throw on everything. But sometimes that blanket is covering something that shouldn't be there. It's like someone saying they're depressed, right? It's one of my big things. Like, I can't, like, my wife says all the time, like, I'm depressed. Like, no, you're not depressed. You're not feeling well. You're sad, right? It doesn't mean you're depressed. You're just sad, right? You're sad. You're not feeling well. Like, it's not a blanket statement to just throw over anything, because that's when it gets dangerous, right? Because that's when you
Language,
start to
bro.
blame you start to blame everything that you do, or any bad thing or anything adverse to the norm on your illness or your depression. And then you're like, wait a second, no, maybe that's just me not wanting to deal with my problems. Maybe that's just me not wanting to focus, or not wanting to put the action in to fix this thing about me. Maybe
Exactly.
it's my anger problem, and I have an anger problem. I don't have a mental illness. I have an anger problem. I'm a mad person, and I need to fix it. And I don't want to put the work in to fix it. So I'm just going to throw it under the mental illness blanket. Or
Right.
I'm sad and I'm feeling bad about myself. And so, because I'm feeling bad about myself because this person over here said this, or because I didn't get this, or this didn't go my way, now I'm depressed. And now I'm going to let myself
100%.
feel and be depressed. And I'm going to live in this depression. I think it's a
100%.
real slap in the face to people who really suffer from depression, and people who really have mental illness. And it's like, it's a hot button topic. It's a fad now. And it's a good thing that mental illness awareness has been pushed into the public. Very good thing. But it's also a negative, in the sense that now everybody's mentally ill.
Right.
Everybody wants to be mentally ill because of the
Dude,
what comes with it.
dude, no, it's crazy. And like to add to that too, right? Because you said something very big there. You said blame. Like here's the thing. Everybody has some kind of fucked up obstacle that makes other people slightly better than them, right? Like the second you start looking for and here's the thing, right? Like if you're looking for reasons to not succeed, if you're looking for reasons to stay in your comfort zone, you're gonna find them. If you're looking for reasons to make yourself successful, you're gonna find it. Like anybody who says I can't succeed because of this problem, right? But they don't fucking do anything about it. Like, I'm sorry, you're full of shit, and I'm unable to respect you because, like, you're just full. Because it's trying, right? I think it just comes back to trying, bro. And like, yeah, like you just gotta try, dude. And to add to that too, like, because like all the salespeople that crush it, the people that crush it, it's just responsibility, right? Like that's really kind of what it comes back to. Um, I think, yeah, dude. I don't know. I just want to double down on what you said. It's
So
huge.
life is hard for everyone,
Hmm.
right? Life is not easy. Just because you have a life doesn't mean it's going to be easy. So you're going to have to face adversity.
Yep.
The Bible says a man is born into adversity as the sparks fly upward, right? So just like you light a fire and those sparks fly up, bad things are going to happen. So how you deal with that determines whether or not you make it through and whether or not you succeed. Right? Whether or
Oh,
not you
Victor,
push through. Yeah.
here's a quick strategy for anybody to actually deal with it. And it's something Victor said a second ago. It is the labels that you put on what's happening to you. If you have a disempowering label, if you have an over exaggerated label, it's going to change the meaning of the words, right? So like if you're tired and you say, "Oh, I'm so fucking exhausted. Life is so hard." Right? You're just taking away from, you're literally making yourself weaker and more tired. Like this, Jesse Itzler, right? Jesse Itzler is a billionaire. He started Vita freaking Coco. I literally just drank 4 containers from his coconut water things. Like this guy's a beast, and I met him in Costa Rica last week. And he started the world's biggest private jet company. Like, dude's awesome, but he's also a really good person, really about like caring and all this. And like he literally said it. Like he was running, he was kind of out of shape, but he was running a 75-mile like thing, right? And so he got to like mile 50, and then he went with this guy, and he was like, "I'm so dead. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it." And this guy who's like older than him and thinner and more out of shape, the guy's freaking, he's like, "I'm not even tired. No, this is easy. I enjoy this. I love this." Right. And so just changing those words, you ran an extra 25 miles. Like it's like literally the words you say have an effect on your body, right? Just like the thoughts you think. If you think of something that pisses you off, like your actual hormones in your body's going to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't give yourself a label that takes away from your power. That's like the first, what do you like, one of the most important things in sales is like labels, right? Like understanding like labels, what somebody says and what's the meaning behind it. You got to control your language.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
I hate this. This is so difficult.
And
Right.
that's not only necessary with sales, but in everything. Like
Right.
I start to think I'm fat, I'm gonna get fat and stay fat. I'm gonna be fat. Right. But if
Yep.
I think, okay, I'm not happy where I'm at right now, but I'm gonna get better. Then what do? You push yourself to get better. When you start to think about yourself in a certain light, you start to feel that light. When you start to let that stuff fester inside of you, it starts to
Mm-hmm.
become who you are. And it starts to
Right.
become what you really, really view yourself as. So while everybody else may look at you and say, man, this guy looks really good. He's a really good looking dude. You're going to think, I'm so ugly. I'm fat. I've got pimples, all these things. And you're going to feel negative about
Yep.
yourself. And that self-worth is going to drive you, that lack of self-worth, I should say, is going to drive you to feel sad and depressed and alone and ashamed of who you are. When in reality, that's all the things you're telling to yourself. There's a tool I like to practice. It's because it happens to all of us. We all feel bad about ourselves. We all think bad about ourselves. I don't care who
Yep.
you are. You always have something negative to say about yourself. But
Yep.
I like to practice this tool really that I've used. I've got 3 daughters, right? And if I were to say to my daughters, or if somebody else were to say to my daughters what I say to myself, we'd be fighting. Like we'd be throwing hands, right?
Yep.
So when it comes to me and talking to myself, I have to remember that I need to be as kind to myself as I would expect someone to be to my kids. Because if I can do that, then I can give myself the grace to grow, right? Because without that, then I'm just bashing myself, and nobody's harder on themselves than you. Nobody's harder on you than you.
Yep.
So if you're not going to talk to anybody else that way, especially not your kids or your wife or your loved one or whatever, you're not going to talk to your mom that way. Why would you talk to yourself that way? Why would you let yourself feel that about yourself when you wouldn't put those thoughts and words into anybody else?
It's balance, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like somebody who only beats themselves up is probably going to burn out. Somebody who only talks about how good they are, right? They're probably, you know what I mean? It's like this, it's this balance, right? If you
Yeah.
have a kid, right? Like you want to be empowering them, saying good things, helping them grow, but then you got to push them. Like, come on, dude, what the fuck are
Yeah.
you doing? Let's get better. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Right. And it's like, if you don't have that balance, things can go bad, right? Um, and I think that's a challenge a lot of people have, right? They kind of lean too much on one side and they kind of kick themselves.
Yeah. And like you're on it though. I mean, it's like there's a total difference between bigging yourself up and like saying, hey, like you got this, you got this, you got this, and then ignoring all of your downfalls and faults, right?
Right.
There's a balance, like you said, there is a balance, and you have to have that awareness to be like, all right, let me take some honest self inventory and say,
Yep.
at the end of the day, like, this is who I am, the good and the bad. The good, let's celebrate the good. The bad, let's fix it. Let's push it. Let's grow out of it. And so you've got
Yep.
to have enough balance and drive to push yourself out of the bad while celebrating the good and not letting one or the other outweigh each other.
Yep. Otherwise, you're getting set up for opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And you're wasting it. Your opportunity is coming and you're wasting it, and that happens
yeah,
a lot. I think we've all, and I think that's happened to all of us, right? Like I used to, I used to have like an agency, right? And I talked to a client that was like a $1 billion client and needed help with marketing, and I totally dropped that ball, and like tons of opportunities. So like it happens. You just got to learn from every like, you know what I mean? Like every time you do some shit, you just got to learn from it. I think it's just this whole mindset of just always learning. You know
yeah.
what I mean? From what comes, because like, you know what I've noticed, bro. You know what I've noticed this pattern very evidently. Um, the people that don't. So you ever met somebody who's never really done sales, but they're just kind of a badass person. They've done their stuff. They've taken ownership. They've had a business, whatever. They come into sales and they kind of crush it. Not really doing a lot of training, right? Very rarely do you see somebody who just isn't that. It hasn't really had a badass life. Hasn't really done much. Nobody really respects them. You don't see those people come into sales and crush it right out of the gate. They have to. They have to. You know what I mean? Like I think like the more you grow as a person, you do these things, bro. Like the more you're naturally going to be good at sales, because that's what sales is, right? Like
Self-development.
it's this balance of like, hey, we got to raise that standard, but it's also like, hey, I care about you. This is important. You're important. You're not a bad person, but right, like that's what sales is,
Yeah,
right? So you gotta be able to do that with yourself to be able to do that with people on calls.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
100%.
Um, but when you do, like, it doesn't even feel like sales because you're just being yourself, right?
Yeah,
I don't think you need to be, I don't think you should be like a different person when you're on calls. I think you should just be a badass person, and it'll bleed through, and not just sales calls. Because now, you know what I found? I don't even see it as sales calls anymore. I don't even see it as interviews, bro. Like I just see it as a conversation with another human being that I may or may not be able to help,
yeah,
right? And that takes all the pressure away. That makes it fun. Like that, you know what I mean? Like that really kind of opens it up. Um, dude, today, okay, so today I had 7 calls booked on my calendar, right? Two of them weren't qualified in any means for like what we had, but we still talked about potential ways of working together. Both of those people, one, he has a company that does like financing. We still talked about a potential way to work together. We got along. I saved his
yeah,
number. You know what I mean? The other guy, like, you know what I mean? He needed, we couldn't solve his problem, but he needed recruiting, needs some help with the sales part. So we had a conversation in that department. Like, and then, obviously, the other 4, yeah, they came in,
yeah.
purchased. But, but oh, and yeah, and then follow up too. But like, you know what I mean? When you kind of just open it up to having the conversation without attaching all this meaning to it, and you can just be who you really are. Like, I think that's best, dude. And I think like most people struggle because like they're not happy with who they are, and they know why. Like if they look at their daily habits, and if anybody else was doing what they do on a daily basis, they would judge them,
Yeah,
right? How are you supposed to help somebody else if you're constantly judging your own actions? If you don't even
right,
respect yourself, if there's no self-esteem, how are
right.
you how are you going to impose esteem upon somebody else? How are you going to transfer? Because that what is a sales call?
It's a
It's
transfer of
transferring
confidence.
confidence.
Yeah,
You know how many people? You know how many people ask me, bro? Like, do you think I should do it? Do you think this could help me?
yeah,
Well, no fucking shit, Sally. That's why we've been talking for the last hour, right? Like, and truly, right? Like that's because they buy into you. They believe in you. And if you don't even believe in yourself, they're gonna see right through you. They're gonna, you know what I mean? Like, and that's every freaking aspect of life, bro. That's all of it. Like,
100%.
oh, dude, it's crazy, man. But
100%. I think an important thing to note is
mhm,
that you are not your action
right,
or your inaction. That's not you. It is simply action or inaction, right? But you're not that. It is a
right,
thing that you do, right? You're not a salesman, you do sales. You are not sales, you do sales, right? That is something that you do. And because you do it, you act a certain way. You are a certain way, right? So a lot of people will get caught up in their action, whether in this industry or not. They'll get caught up by their actions, or I did this and so this is who I am, or I never did this and I could never do that, so that's just who I am. It's the kind of person that I am. But it's like, no, you never did it, so do it. Nothing's stopping you from doing it. If you've never jumped off a cliff before, nothing's stopping you but you from jumping off a cliff. You know, if you've never skydived, what's stopping you but you? If you were a horrible person and you did
Stop
horrible
myself
things
for
to
a little
people,
longer on that one.
yeah, if you did horrible things to people in the past, like you did horrible things to people in the past, that's an action that you did, right?
Right.
What are you going to do right now? How do you own that? How do you use that to move forward and be a better person? Like you're not that action.
Exactly.
That is something you did, and that okay, you did it, and you know it's done, right? Feel it,
Yeah.
go through it, move past it, and be better, right?
There,
Or I
there's,
never got the chance to do this, so same thing.
uh-huh.
Move past
There's
it
two
and do it.
sides to that. There's two sides to that though, right? Because I feel like you kind of, I feel like 80% of, and obviously, right? Like my personal belief is that we're spiritual beings in a human body having a human experience, right? Like
Mhm.
absolutely. But don't you think like 80% of who we are is the actions we take, and we have the ability to change our actions, thus change who we are? Like
No,
I
I think I get what you're saying, but I don't think
Mhm.
it's I think 80% of who we are, and we're using the same analogy, 80% of who
Yeah.
we are the result of the actions we take. And so we have the ability to change the
Hmm.
results based on the action
Yeah.
that we take. So I think the action is literally the step. If you look at it from a physical
Right.
standpoint, where you're going
Good put it.
is who you are, right? Where your
Right.
destination is who you are. But the action of taking a step is just an action.
Mhm.
You can change where you're going, you can change who you are by stepping in a different direction, right? But that action of taking that step isn't who you are. It just determines where you're going. It determines your result. And that result
Right.
is what you're aiming for, right? So when it
Right.
comes to who I am and the actions that I take, like, yes, I take actions and those determine who I become, of course. But I can always take another action and become something different. Like,
Agreed.
that's how I feel about it.
100%. No, yeah, no, we're on the same page. We're just saying it slightly differently.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, no, it's true. Like it's, and I think that's the whole like, because I think 90% of what we're talking about when it comes to like the mindset stuff is like how do employees think and how do business owners think, right? Every single time, if you think about the business owner, the entrepreneur, right, that person that creates their life, like there's a very consistent pattern of thinking. The people who say, "Oh, this happened to me once, and that's how I am, and I'm a fuck up," like they have a fixed mindset. The people that are able to change their actions based on where they want to be, they have a growth mindset, right? They're willing, because by nature as a human being, you know what I mean, like we're kind of bound. And I think when you're in sales, like you really notice this, but people are very much bound to their like comfort zone, right, to like their bubble, their way of being, and the amount of terror that comes with somebody getting out of that comfort zone is why we get paid as well as we do, right? Like
It's scary to change.
it is.
There's a
And
lot of
so
unknown.
right, so you gotta, I think like that, the whole idea of like a why, I think that kind of plays into it too, right? Because like if you don't have a strong enough why even change? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's so easy to be comfortable, bro. Like you can literally be like the biggest piece of shit eating pizza, watching shows on your thing, like working as few hours as you possibly can so you can pay your bills and save a little bit, but not really. And in terms of like just pleasure, and in terms of just like minimal pain and optimizing for your human experience, technically for one human, you're kind of there, right? Especially if you get your spiritual needs met, right? Because you have spiritual needs, you have the need for contribution and the need for growth, right? You can pretty much get those by playing video games and then giving advice to other people. You know what I mean? Like you can. I think if you don't have a strong enough why, like you're kind of, you know what I mean? You're kind of kidding yourself. Like you should probably just go fuck off and do this because you're gonna meet all your needs. When you care about something outside of yourself, right? When you care about something outside of yourself, that's when you really kind of got to push yourself and change your identity to grow.
Yeah.
I think most people are kind of full of shit and they shouldn't, like, you know what I mean? Like they say they want it, but they don't. And if you look at the actual like reason, like it's super shallow and they're just wasting their fucking time.
Yeah.
You know?
Or they don't know how to want it. You know, they don't know.
How do
They
you
don't
mean?
know. So like there may be a valid reason there, but they don't know how to bring that to the forefront and push themselves to achieve that. And sometimes it's not how as in like somebody show me, but it's how as
Yeah.
in like how do I pull this up and make this a motivating factor instead of a fear. You know, sometimes they're
Oh yeah,
why.
reframe.
Sometimes, yeah,
Mhm.
sometimes whys are more fears than anything else.
Right.
And how do
100%.
you take that fear and turn that fear into something that's motivational? And I think that's where a lot of people are stuck. It's like, all right, I want to, I want to provide for my family, right?
Right.
Okay, so now I'm afraid that I'm never going to be able to provide for my family. So how do I get that fear from, all right, let me motivate myself to push myself so I'm never not going to provide for my family.
You know how you do that, bro? Sit there for a second, because here's the thing, right? Most people are stuck in the day-to-day 24/7. They never really get to think. Even when they have a second to think, they use their fucking phone, right?
Mhm.
Distract themselves, turn their brain off. You know how you fix that? You sit down for a second and you just really like ponder that, right? And then when you can do it with yourself, you can do it with other people. Like, what are the consequences if I don't fix this problem? How is that going to affect my family?
Yeah.
Oh, is that tangible? Let me see. How would that actually work out? Oh shit. So this is basically like what's 99% gonna happen. Yes. So I'm basically choosing to fuck these people and screw these people over. That's pretty heavy. So now you kind of have to move because you've taken away the stability of not doing anything. Because I think what happens is the label, the meaning that we assign to not doing anything, right? I'm not doing anything bad. I'm just chilling. I'm just enjoying life. I'm just in my day to day. When you really think about it and you change the meaning of what staying still actually means, right? That's when you create it's a reframe. You're changing a belief. So if you could do that
Yeah.
within yourself, you can do that within somebody else. You can literally like, bro, tell me not. Like you're like you ever been on a, like I've had people like sign up, you know what I mean, for like stuff that I'm offering, right? Offers, and it's super good for them, right? But they're a day or two later, they're like, "What did I pay for?"
Mhm.
You know, because they're just running off such a high to change,
Yeah.
right? That they didn't have before because they just didn't view it that way.
Yeah. You said reframe. Like I think reframing and like the ability to reframe things in your own personal life is a huge skill.
Yep.
And when you develop that skill, like you see exponential changes in yourself. When you can
Yep.
say, okay, like this is where I'm at, everything is bad. And then you say, wait a second, like this is where I'm at. This is an opportunity to grow. Like
Right.
it's a huge difference. It's like you're allowed to be frustrated. You're allowed to be tired. You're allowed to be at your wits' end. But
Yep.
like, where do you go from there? Like, are you excited? Are you hopeful? Are you building towards something? Or are you just gonna wallow in that frustration? Right?
Right.
Like a pig in the mud is a pig in the mud. But to that farmer, that pig in the mud is bacon, right? So it may
Yep.
look dirty, it may look messy right now, but I know it's gonna be so good when I clean it up and when I get it fat and when I throw it in the oven,
Or if
right?
you get a nice heart and you domesticate it like a dog. I saw a video of a I saw a video of a cow who was just playing with the dogs. You
No,
can
but
be too.
you see what I mean?
But yeah, yeah, I know what you mean, bro.
It's all the way you look at it. It's all in how you position yourself. And a lot of people say, oh, all this foo-foo hocus pocus about how you look at stuff and how you envision and what you see in your mind and blah 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 blah. And no,
You know what I gotta say to those people, bro? Like, dude, it's just beliefs,
yeah,
right? Like it's just beliefs. Like you believe that like if you believe something and I can cause you to believe something else with a couple words, is that not fucking powerful?
yeah.
It like you know what I mean? Because most people operate not from reality, but from their belief of what reality is,
Most
right?
people believe more in a sports team that's never won in their entire life than they believe in than they believe in themselves.
Oh
It's the
shit.
truth. Most people will go to those games and they'll stand out and they'll wear the
Right,
gear
right,
and they'll go "Woo, rah, rah." They'll go hoarse in their voice because they believe this team is going to win and this team
right.
is never going to accomplish anything. And then they'll go home and they'll look at themselves in the mirror and they'll say, "You're not worthy. You're never going to accomplish anything. You're only this big. Like you're never going to be anything important to anyone." Right? But
Yeah,
they put all their belief in that team that has proved over and over and over again that they're not going to win. But what
yeah.
about taking just a fraction of that belief in that sports team and putting it into yourself? You know how powerful that would be?
It's
You know how
powerful, dude.
crazy that would be? It'd be insane.
Man, you know, but you know what's it's the self-esteem, bro. It really is just valuing yourself because here's the thing, right? If I'm at this point in life, right? Kind of broke, kind of bad at communicating, don't really have any influence. Nobody really likes me. They kind of tolerate me, right? Like, how much effort is it going to take to help anybody? A lot. And a lot of people down here think they're good people because they'll spend 90% of the time helping everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Where if they just worked on themselves and grew as an individual, right? Lots of money, lots of influence, helps like constantly helping people, big network, right? 1% of their time, bro, they could take the person that used to think 1% of the time could take them all the way up here,
Mm-hmm.
just like that, and do that with hundreds of thousands of people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like probably the most selfish thing you could do is just stay small, because a lot of the people, and it's coming from a good place consciously, but subconsciously they're being selfish, they're being scared, and they're not
Yeah.
willing to get out of their comfort zone, right? It's an excuse, right?
Yeah.
It's bullshit. um Oh, I do everything I can to help everybody. And it sounds fucked because now we're talking about like the parents that put all their time and energy into their kids,
Mm-hmm.
right? Without putting anything into themselves. You
Yeah.
can invest in your kids, but focus on yourself because the more you do, the more powerful your time is. You know how many kids like they're sick and like parents say, "Oh, I just really got to invest in my kid. I really got to be with them. I got to be with them. They're really important." But the kid doesn't even care that they're there because they're around so much. Like they're like, you know what I mean? Like you see that a lot, bro. Like, you could cut that time in half. They value the time more, and now you can grow as an individual, and now they can respect you,
Yeah.
right? Dude, like
Yeah.
yeah, I hear
It,
kids sometimes talking about their parents, bro. They're like, I just don't respect, like, yeah, little, he's full of shit, he's lame, blah blah blah.
yeah.
You know?
That's because they never got punched in the face. I have this theory. I have this theory, and I'm not, promoting, promoting child abuse or anything, but I have this theory that you can tell by just communicating with people, and you can tell by how people move if they've been punched in the face or not.
Right,
And some people, the reality of it is they've never been punched in the face, and because they've never been punched in the face, they act like they've never been punched in the face. And those type of people
right,
are people who, are really high on themselves. They're really haughty. They're like overconfident. Their hubris is large, right? There's big, proud people, but they never been punched in the face. Because if you've really been punched in the face, if you've been humbled like that enough to be punched in the face, you're like, okay, I don't need to do all of this to get where I need to go. I need to move a little bit more wisely. I need to move a little bit
yeah,
more easier. I need to talk to people a little bit differently. I don't need to approach this situation at Popeye's Chicken when I'm don't get my order and I'm like yelling in somebody's face, right?
yep,
I don't need to do that because I know what it's like to yell in somebody's face and get knocked out, right? So
yep.
I'm gonna watch how I move so that way I get more done because it's just the theory that I've come to think is
That's
pretty
real
much
shit,
true.
bro. No,
It's
that's real
like,
shit. Um, no, it's true. You're kind of shaped by your traumas, right? Like getting punched in the face, like it's just adversity in general. Like if somebody's never been through adversity, like you can kind of feel it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Um, like that's just where you grow the most, bro.
yeah.
Um,
There's a certain level of life where it's cool that you haven't gone through adversity. Like if you're 14, 15 years old and you haven't gone through anything, good life, man. You've had a good life and that's great. Like I'm happy for you. But if you're 25, 26, 27, even 22, 23, 24, and you still haven't gone through anything, now you're moving like strange. Now you're
yep,
acting like you're hot, right? And you shouldn't be
right.
because there's a lot of life out there that you haven't experienced and you're not open to experiencing it because you think everything's fine and normal and dandy, right? So
100%.
if you've gone through something, if you've had a little bit of adversity in your life and you've grown through it and you've come through it and you've worked through that, you now know how to do that with everything else. It's a formula. You've got the formula, right? Things get hard. I deal with it. I let it soak in for a bit and then I reframe, push past it, and then I get success.
You know what the best adversity is, bro? Self-inflicted adversity. Anybody who you ever heard that saying, it's better to like sweat in peace than like bleed in war? Like the what is it? The more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war, bro.
I've never
Like,
heard that actually. Yeah.
oh yeah, dude, literally. Like it's like most people that haven't been through adversity they're the ones that say, "Oh, I'm not that good because I haven't been through adversity. It's not my fault."
Yeah.
Right? Not your fault, but it is your fucking problem. You should probably, you know what I mean? Like, you should probably start bringing adversity into your life. Good adversity. It's not that hard, you know? Like starting a business is adversity, right? Getting accountability partners, that's adversity. Like getting into a boxing gym and getting punched in the face, even though you don't have to, right? That's adversity.
Yeah.
And that's the best adversity because you know you kind of know you have a way out, yet you continue, right? You're the one, you know that you don't have to do it, but you're doing it. That builds character twice as fast as like, yeah, I got fucked, so I just had to adapt.
Yeah.
Like I put myself through it. And by getting through what I inflicted upon myself, I know I have the power to create my own character, right? When people realize that, that's when they can go from being in a slump and not making sales or not getting ahead to really getting ahead. You can shape your character by the, like if you think in terms of like a video game, right? You can shape your character by the the dungeons you go through, right? The challenges you put yourself with. If everybody's a little level one enemy monster thing, right? You're never gonna get that much better. But if you put yourself in an environment where you die every 3 seconds, but you can just come back and try again, right? You're gonna grow. Like you have control over that, and that's
Yeah.
self-inflicted adversity. It's what's his name, bro? The stoic guy that was like a king, Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. Read any book by Marcus Aurelius if you want to have something a little more like modern. Ryan, I think his name was Ryan Holiday, the guy who wrote like The Obstacle is the Way and
Sure.
Unfuckwithable,
Yeah.
whatever. Like that's what he goes into. Like if your life isn't that good, just put yourself through adversity and it'll just make you a much better person.
Yeah. It's like a Buddhist principle, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And it goes to that saying, like, I'd rather be a lion in the pasture than a lamb in the jungle.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. It's better to be a warrior and a gardener than a fucking gardener in the middle of a fucking war field,
Yeah.
right? Most people are fucking gardeners just going through a war field, getting wrecked, bro.
Yeah.
Wrecked. Weak. And I'm not saying I'm like the toughest guy ever by any means, bro. You know, like I've
Yeah.
like I'm constantly, you know what I mean? I'm trying to improve myself. And it's like if you don't, like you're just dude, the US goes to shit. Like you're just fucked. You know what I mean? Because having an online business, taking sales calls, like come on, bro. You know what I mean? Like you're just talking to people. Like I literally sit here, I jump on a Zoom call and I'm like, what's going on? Like
Yeah.
tell me like how can I help? That's literally, you know what I mean? Just literally that conversation 8 times a day and you can make 6 figures. Like Shopify, what are you actually doing? You're posting little pictures online and you're researching who's buying the pictures and who's putting their money behind the picture. Like, come on, bro. Come on, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah. A little bit
man,
of effort. I posted something on Facebook today. Like,
uh-huh.
effort doesn't work without action,
Right.
right? And a little bit of effort goes a long way. And when it
Uh-huh.
comes to getting past your trauma, getting past like the mental instability that you have and allowing yourself to be someone of strength, right? A person of strength, a person of success.
Bro, you're gonna hate me. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to add to how to resolve that for people.
yeah.
So I might just cure like
Okay.
a lot of shit right now.
Here we go.
So, dude, like here's the thing. I think trauma is a very real thing,
Yeah.
right? I think it's a very real thing, and I think it's fucked. I'm, you know, anybody who's living through it, like it's hard. Guess what? You're not the only one living through it. There's a bunch of people that are so much more innocent than you, aren't as blessed as you. You can look around and notice you have a roof over your head, you have water, right? You're going through trauma and you have all these things. Imagine the kid who's going through trauma who has none of that, who's been abused, who's been burned, who's been hurt, right? If you don't get through that shit, right? Because when you get through it, your mess is your message, right? Only once you can actually clean it up. Like if you can get through that shit, you're the person that can help the kid who otherwise wouldn't get that help, who would have to suffer for a very long time. The
Mhm.
trick to overcoming your trauma, the trick to overcoming your mental instability or your mental challenges is to realize it's not about you,
Yeah.
right? The human condition, if you focus on something outside of yourself, it's scientifically proven you will be able to last longer. You will be, it's just if you're focused on your, to make this comical, bro, even with fucking like sex, right? Like if you're focused on yourself, right? You know what I mean? Like it's everything. It's everything. If you focus on others, on how you want to help, how you want to contribute, right? One of our like spiritual needs. If you focus on how you want to contribute, who you want to help, you can do so much more. I doubt that the single moms that are working 80 hours a week would even be able to do that, bro. That would even be able to do that if they weren't focused on something outside of themselves. If I don't work, my kid's not going to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You channel unbelievable amounts of power when you're not being selfish, when you're focusing on other people. And I think like anybody who's stuck in the trauma and the thing, like you'll find a why. Like if you really sit there and think about like those people, you could have nobody in your life, but if you think about those people, if you just see them or like just for a second, you're like, yo, like I got to get through this so they can get through this.
Yeah.
And it's true.
It's all about being selfish, being selectively selfish, as I like to call it. Like you've got
Right.
to realize that, okay, I've got to want to get better for myself. Right.
Yep.
I've got to want to do this for myself. You do. But you also have to realize that it's not all about you. Right. So you can't be selfish in the sense to think it's all about me, but you've got to want to do it for yourself too. You've got to want to do it for everybody else, but you got to want to do it for you too. You got to be selectively selfish. And when it comes to growing and putting that, putting that good out there and contributing, like you need both. You need to be selfish. You do. But you need to be selfish in a way that's healthy for you. And then you also need to think about everybody else that's around you. You need to think about, put it into perspective, right? And say, okay, the reality is I may feel like I'm going through the worst possible thing right now, but I can knock on the neighbor's door and they're going through something a lot worse than me. So if
Yep.
I can make it through this and I can help somebody feel the same thing that's probably going through something a little less than me, and now I got through that, and now I'm somebody's looking at me, because no man is an island, right?
Yep.
Nobody's an island. Nobody's sitting there on his own, not affecting anybody else in the world. So if I can make it through something, then I'm using my Andrew Tate voice right now. Let me stop. But if I can make it through something, then, then somebody else looking at me, somebody else watching me can get through it too. And it's somebody else's inspiration, right? So let me be selfish enough to get through it for myself, but also let me not think that it's all just about me, because everybody else is going through something too.
Breaking news segment, guys. Like that is so huge. I'm gonna give you guys a live example, breaking news style, of like somebody that I met this weekend that is doing just that. So we need like a sound effect, by the way.
Pew, 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 pew.
No, bro, like real shit. I'm about to just put this up on the screen real quick for the world to see. If I can find it. I can't find it. Oh well. I'll post a link. Whatever. I'll post. I'm pretty sure it's in my car. It's fine.
Hmm.
But no. What I was gonna say is that I found it. So I met this lady in Costa Rica. This is at the event. So bro, there was a plane.
I met this lady in Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. No, bro, shit. This was fucked. Like this was crazy. There was a plane crash, right? It's like 160 people in the plane. I think 140 died, and maybe 10 survived. Right? Like most of them died. They got burned. It was terrible. This horrible. She ended up like she was literally like bleeding out in a car for like 3 hours. They're trying to get to the freaking thing because they landed in a place like in the mountains, right? And and she tells the whole story in this book. I met her in Costa Rica, and like she was so deformed, she had to get 60 facial surgeries just to fix her face. Like it was bad. And I don't know what she was doing for work. Something like, some kind of normal 9 to 5, $10 an hour, whatever, right? I think she was like a housewife.
Regular job.
Yeah. Dude, she started she was a burn victim, right? Plane blew up, burned. She started like a hospital in like Central America, right? That gives treatment to people that are burn victims for free. They've done like 30,000 surgeries, bro, for free.
Wow.
It's one of the nicest facilities in the country, right? Like just in terms of treatments, like hundreds of thousands of people have been saved. That's somebody who had a really, really bad obstacle, really, really bad. Nobody would blame her if she spent the rest of her life just mute, you know, she literally, like, I probably met her, like she had hundreds of people just crying, bro, like literally, like, huge impact. And this book was free. I didn't pay for it. She was like, I just want everybody to get it, blah blah blah, like um and my point is, she went through all that, right?
Yeah.
But she focused on the little kids that got burnt, you know what I mean, that
Yeah.
lost their parents, that were even worse than her, who weren't able to get the medical care that she got, you know,
Yeah.
maybe because of her husband, maybe because of this, she got the medical care, right? And she ended up getting through it, even though she was in pain for like for years. She'll probably always be. um Dude, the hospital is they're kicking some ass, bro. You know, they were going through all the numbers and all, you know, and a surgeon, right? That's like a six-figure salary. There's a bunch of surgeons on staff. It's just, it's crazy, right? The only reason a human being can do that is that they focus on the people that are going through it too, but are even worse than them.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter how bad your shit is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it does matter, but like, there's somebody going through it worse. So if
Yeah.
you get through it, you can help that person.
Yeah. 100%, man.
You know?
And like we've been talking about, it's just reframing your trauma and reframing that pain and putting it towards positive use, right? It's not wallowing in the, you know, the depression or the mental illness or the physical trauma or the bad thing that happened to you, and it's saying, no, I'm going to turn this into something that's going to benefit me and benefit everybody else. And like, going back to what we were originally talking about, like, that's what separates the weak from the strong. And that's why I personally think that mental illness is an overused catchphrase, because a lot of times it's just, what you need to do is take what you're going through, like soak in it, like let it absorb, let it hit you, right? And then push past it, figure out a way to push past it, find help, talk to someone, you know, journal, you know, get active, you know, whatever you're doing, and push past it, and use it to motivate you to go forward. And I want to take the moment to say that, you know, a lot of people, if you really have mental illness, get the help you need. You know, get help, you know, seek medical attention. It's a serious thing. But a, even if you are feeling like, oh, I'm depressed, I'm sad, like I'm going through this thing, like talk it out, get it out, like get it out, talk it out, work through it. Because a lot of times, if we hear what we think, we're like, whoa, I that's really that dark, or I'm really that sad, or am I really this way? Like, I'm not just internalizing this, I'm hearing myself say this about myself. So then let me use that tool. Like, if I would say this to somebody else, or if I would want somebody to say this to my mother or my grandmother or my children or my spouse or my loved one, if I wouldn't let them say that to them, then I should be saying it to myself, and I need to find a way to push past it and work past
Even and find a way to communicate it to yourself in the better way, right? Like, it's you can be given the same message. If you just say it in a different way, it's better received. If you're having a sales call, right? This crazy weird thing that's really just a conversation, right? If
it.
you're having that conversation, you tell somebody, hey, buddy, you're full of shit. Like, you don't know what you're doing. You're a pussy. You're weak, right? They're gonna say screw you, and they're gonna jump off the call. If at the same time you say, like, hey, can I, you know, I really want you to succeed. I think you're doing everything in your power to make it happen, but can I just offer you some constructive criticism to help you out? Yes. Like, right? And it's like, yeah, we got to step it up. I think you know that you're not doing enough, right? Like, it's just different. It's the same thing. It's just said in a different way. So on that note, guys, sales starts with you. The communication you have with yourself is the communication you have with other people. So
Right.
take away from this what you may. If you're willing to take on this mindset, we'd be lucky to have you as somebody to staff to our very many clients who are looking for closers and setters. And to anybody else listening, I hope this is helpful. Have a great day. We're calling it a night.
Peace.
Peace.